I hate you. Let me repeat that. I hate you is a phrase that I know we've all said or thought at least once in our lives. And I know that I've thought it many times, especially while arguing with my little brother over the tiniest things. Why do we act differently now from how we did 3, 4, or 5 years ago? The concept of teenagers didn't even exist until the 1940s, less than 100 years ago. Back then, you were a kid. And then suddenly, you are an adult. But why? Why do teenagers act like this? Or, in other words, why do we act like this? I'm not here as an expert. I'm here as a student trying to explain what's actually happening to us. For example, we've all had friends who we really shouldn't have been friends with. Whether that means they smoke, vape, do drugs, or just a really bad person. Why do we stick with them? You know that moment when a friend says, come on, it's not a big deal, and then suddenly your brain is screaming, do it? That's your oxytocin system at work, the bonding hormone. When you hang out with friends, your brain literally rewards you with good feelings. Meanwhile, cortisol, the stress hormone, spikes if you're worried about rejection. Studies even show that your ventral striatum lights up when friends approve of you. That's why people would stick with their friends, even if they know they're a terrible influence and contradict everything you were taught in elementary school about friendships. This is called peer pressure. Peer pressure can be positive, but the negative kind shows up more. During adolescence, your friends have more influence on you than your parents, teachers, and honestly, anyone else. And sometimes, your friends just suck. Think about the people you call your friends. Are they really helping you grow? Because peer pressure is real. It's powerful. And it's why friends, good or bad, matter so much during these years. But if teenage behavior were only about friends, it would disappear when you're alone. But it doesn't. That's because the change is deeper than social pressure. It's neurological. Because our brain is literally in the process of changing. Your brain is like a construction site. The prefrontal cortex, which controls logic, planning, and self-control, is still being built, but won't fully be done until around age 25. Yes, I know, basically ancient. We'll never get there. The amygdala, however, the emotional processing part, has been done since you were 9 years old. Also, our amygdalas have more control over us than our prefrontal cortex, which, if you have been paying attention, and I hope you guys have, means that you're more likely to make decisions based on what you're thinking in the moment, rather than your own logical thinking. That's why you'll sometimes yell at your younger sibling or have dramatic mood swings for seemingly no reason. Brain development explains why our emotions come so quickly, but chemistry explains why they feel so intense. So who's ready for a chemistry lesson? Teenagers feel things more intensely thanks to the chemical dopamine. Dopamine is a chemical that's responsible for rewarding your brain whenever you do something good, such as eating good food, getting good grades, or other good things. The mesolimbic dopamine system is how dopamine gets to your brain. It sends a chemical all the way up to your brain's reward center. Throw in serotonin, which controls mood, and add both testosterone and estrogen, which influences energy, aggression, and other things, and your body is a concoction of chemicals all fighting. It's literally a roller coaster of emotions that's thrilling, unpredictable, and honestly terrifying. This guy, he's scary. But all of this leads to one of the most uncomfortable parts of being a teenager: identity. Have you ever walked into a new class and it seems like everyone's looking at you? Well, that's your amygdala at work. Teenage brains have evolved to think that if you get kicked out of the group, or if you don't join the group, you die. Of course, in the modern day, you won't physically die, but combine that with cortisol spikes, and suddenly every text or glance feels amplified. Ironically, everyone else is hyper-focused on themselves, not on you. Teenagers are like mirrors in a funhouse, everyone reflecting on their own insecurities. But some of you still do know this and understand what I'm saying, but still feel like something's missing, like you haven't figured yourself out yet. The teenage years are when our brains start to ask, who am I? Hormones, like the previously mentioned, testosterone and estrogen, are surging, influencing mood, energy, and aggression. Your prefrontal cortex is still learning to control these responses, which is why experimenting with things such as clothes, music, friends, or even hairstyles is seemingly biologically necessary. Luckily, we still have many years to figure this out, and we don't need to rush through things just because we're in high school. But here's the best part. Being a teenager is actually amazing. Yes, I know, cliche, we hear it all the time, but it's true. I understand that school's getting difficult. Friends are fading, some of you may have jobs, and it seems like everything is only getting worse. But these years are a time for growth and change. You're becoming more independent, which gives you a better sense of responsibility. You're figuring out your passions and what you like. Most people have their firsts as a teenager, such as their first job, first kiss, or first time driving a car. Oxytocin makes you social, empathetic, and capable of forming deep connections. Your heightened emotions actually allow for creativity and bold ideas. Studies even show that we as teens often outperform adults in creative problem-solving tasks because our brains are flexible and respond to novelty. Teenagers act like teenagers, not because something's wrong with us, but because something important is happening. Right now, we are experiencing a time in our lives that we will never get back. In the end, you're developing, you're changing. Take this time right now to explore your passions. Try to understand yourself, but be aware that you won't have all the answers anytime soon. Be comfortable with change. These delicate teenage years you spend right now dictate how the rest of your life plays out. So yes, we are weird, emotional, and insecure, but we're not done growing. Your prefrontal cortex is developing, your amygdala is learning, your hormones are calibrating, and your reward system is fine-tuning. What others say is chaos is simply development in progress. Thank you.